Good Friday morning. Tim Radford with you here on WKRK in Murphy, North Carolina. It is time for our weekly program with Sheriff Derek Palmer, and I've got that recording on. And let's move over here, as you can hear, our squeaky microphone, and put this up here on the screen. Good morning, Sheriff. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Are you doing okay this morning?
Doing fantastic. Welcome back on a Friday, and we have a lot to talk about today.
Friday.
It is a cold Friday. Yeah. Just a little too cold. Tyler's been enjoying it way too much,
right.
And I have not. And I better turn on the right microphone for you.
I've been. We've got people at the office that's just all about fall and winter, and cold weather and the leaves falling and all that. And so I was thinking this morning, I've got 241 days to summer.
I'm right there with you. Right there with you. Well, let's just get off on the topic first off, and we have. Yesterday was a confusing day for a lot of folks.
Yes,
a lot of misinformation spread, and for folks on our radio program and that did not touch Facebook yesterday, Let's tell you what. I'm going to read the post that was posted by a lady down in the Hiawassee Dam area yesterday. So she posted this: I was on my way to work this morning at 5 a.m. Got at the stop sign on coming out of Hiawassee Dam Access Road. There was a white van stopped in front of me. Two men got out with masks on, in all black with guns. They robbed me. Just letting everyone know to keep your eyes open and your doors locked at all times, and take care of your kids tonight.
Right.
So she posted that yesterday morning on Facebook, and Facebook went crazy.
It lit up.
It lit up, and even though she didn't make it shareable on her page, people took screenshots of it and started sharing that on their page. So that caused a lot of fear in our community.
It did. It caused a lot of panic, a lot of fear. The officers responded yesterday morning, met her down at the Hiawassee Dam area when she first reported this at 5 o'clock yesterday morning, and began an investigation. It was quickly found through the investigation that there were things wasn't adding up about the statement and things that were said, and different things that happened in the area just didn't really add up to what the witness said happened. So we continued the investigation throughout the day, but as we were trying to do our investigation, as you well said, Facebook had lit up with all these comments and people sharing things and discussing things about it and all this stuff. And I actually started receiving calls at the sheriff's office throughout the day about people very upset and very agitated as to why we weren't posting anything on our page, why we weren't alerting the community and all those kind of things. And trying to get people to understand that we're in the middle of an investigation, and we would post something as soon as we had legitimate, valid information to post, but it wasn't our job to post rumors on Facebook or things that we didn't know what we were talking about. So as we conducted the investigation, we did find at the conclusion of it at the end of the day that she later admitted that she made the story up, that it was not true. She had lost a large sum of money at a casino earlier or the day before, and that she was afraid of the ramifications of that with her home life and those type of things, and is kind of why she did what she did. But the point I want to bring to this, and she has been charged, by the way. We did charge her with filing a false report, misuse of 911 yesterday evening. But the point of all this is that shows what happens when people take to Facebook without having the facts and the knowledge. I know that people were nervous in the community. They were trying to make their family aware and friends aware of those things. But it kind of goes back to what I said before. Not everything that's reported is true.
Right.
And not everything that people say is true. And so we have to go through an investigation, and we have to find out the facts and find out what actually did happen and what is going on with that. Before we start putting information out there. And so I can't stress it enough to people in these communities that a lot of times when you share this information, you create a lot of damage just by sharing it and just by talking about it and putting things out there before anything official comes out. And I know that a lot of people think, well, I know this lady, I know, that she's part of our community and those type of things, and we're just trying to be proactive and get that information out there. But I would dare say that there's more misinformation and more things that are shared on Facebook and through posts that are not true and information that is not true than is true. And so I just strongly encourage people to wait for that official notification to come out with some facts before people start sharing things and creating panic in their communities.
I wonder if she realized how much attention this would have gotten and how much damage it would have done, because she probably is a lot worse off now after having posted
She is
that.
a lot worse off now than what would have happened just by going home and saying, hey, this is what I did. This is, the situation there. One of the things, and just kind of skipping on into the next question that you're going to have here in a minute so people understand. This morning, today on Friday morning, we did actually have an armed robbery. We had one this morning at the Waffle House out on 64 West, where a subject dressed in a costume with a mask and robbed the business there with a handgun. It's on videotape. It's legitimate. It did happen. But the situation is, and they're tracking this individual down who they think did it, who's a suspect in this, and to do an interview with them. But what we suspect happened in that was the fact of that all this information that was put on Facebook yesterday and was shared yesterday and was put out all day long yesterday, we believe it probably gave this individual the idea to do that this morning. And so we think this was probably kind of a copycat thing that happened today with this individual, thinking that maybe if this story yesterday was true, that maybe we would blame it on those folks. And so they look for an opportunity to try to do this. So that's speculation at this point. We don't know that for a fact, but that seems to be kind of what the thought process is this morning with all that happened yesterday. So that even shows further ramifications.
How much damage?
How much damage it does in putting stuff out there. We just try, like I say, just want to strongly encourage people not to take these things and run with them, because inevitably what happened yesterday is, we've had people who shared this thing multiple times, who went all over Facebook. I don't know how many thousands of people saw it and viewed it. So today, or last night, for example, after she was arrested and it was shown that it was not true, a lot of those thousands of people that saw that yesterday didn't see the follow-up post or didn't see that that it was not true, but still are talking about it and sharing it as the truth. And so once you kind of unleash that stuff, it's hard to wrangle it back up and get it put back in the bag. And so that's why it's so important to wait on the information. And I know that people get frustrated when we do that and say, you need to put something out now, you need to do it now. But we even had media outlets that were calling us saying, we want you to put something out now, put a press release out now. And this was like at 9 o'clock yesterday morning. And me saying, just wait till we get some facts. Just wait till we
figure out what happened. It takes time to get to the truth sometimes.
It does. And so, but as law enforcement, we have an obligation to take those information that we have and do an investigation on it. On the onset, it didn't look right, didn't smell right from the onset, but it's one of those things that you never know. It could have very well have been true, so we have to follow it out through a thorough investigation.
Had it been true, what would you recommend a person do as the victim in that situation?
For the victim, if it had been true?
Had it been true, if someone was in that situation, because there have been robberies that were similar to that.
Right.
Maybe not in our local area, but I know there's another lady that said that she was upset because that actually did kind of happen to her not too long ago.
Right.
So what would someone do in that situation?
Well, one thing we always suggest people do, what are the newer the newer vehicles that we have now, most vehicles have automatic locks on their doors. What we suggest for people to do is, if you don't have automatic locks on your doors, be sure your doors are locked in your vehicle when you're traveling. Lock your doors when you travel, keep your windows up, those type of things, especially now that it's cold, you can keep your windows up and kind of stuff. But the other thing that I suggest for people to do also, when you take your driving test, they tell you that when you stop at a stop sign behind another vehicle, you're supposed to stop far enough back that you can see the other vehicle's tires on the pavement. And so keep distance between you and the other vehicle. So if someone did get out and try to approach you, you have room to escape, you have room to move, to get out of the way, those type of things. And so, just use a little bit of common sense about those type of things is what we always try to encourage people. We've talked about this before, when I, myself as a law enforcement officer, when I get out of my car, even my patrol car, it doesn't matter. When I get out of a convenience store or when I get out in a restaurant or wherever it may be, I lock my doors when I get out. When I get in, they're locked. Just being aware of your surroundings, having escape routes, those type of things. And I know a lot of people say, well, I don't want to live life that way, but that's the life we live in, right? That's the world we live in. And so wherever I'm at, whether it's going out to eat, whether it's going to the movies, whether it's just driving down the highway, I'm constantly thinking about where I would go and what I would do if something happened. So like when you come to intersections, red lights, things of that nature, I always try not to get myself boxed in to where I have no avenue of escape or getting out. So if I'm in a lane and I know that I'm going to have cars beside me or whatever, sometimes I move to the other lane just so I can be near a median or be near something to where if I have to escape or get out, I can real fast. And just using those type of common sense things. But I always call 911, of course. If the event does happen, be sure you call 911 as soon as possible. Stay where you are, get identifying information, tag numbers, vehicle descriptions, identifying marks, stickers on cars, identifying marks on a person, tattoos, all those things that can kind of specify a person. When vehicles are involved, if possible, get the tag number off the vehicles. If you don't have a pen to write with, one thing I always try to remind people is when you're on the highways, especially on our country roads, 2-lane roads, there's usually gravel on the side of the roads. About anywhere you look, get a rock, pick up a piece of rock and scratch the tag number out on the pavement. That way you don't forget it. And that way it's written down, even if you don't have a pen to write with.
And a lot of people are using technology like dash cams that just basically record their whole drive.
They do. My vehicle that I drive, I have a GoPro in it, and you got these dash cams that you can buy, on Walmart shelves or whatever that you just attach to your mirrors, and they record all the time. We have officers that use those. We're in the process of setting up vehicles where we have our law enforcement evidence cams that are considered pieces of evidence where they lock that information up or you can't alter it or change it. But for those that don't have that, a lot of us just use just regular cameras, GoPros and dash cams and things of that nature in our cars so we see what's going on. So I encourage people also, they're very inexpensive. You can put it on your mirrors, you can plug them in, they run 24/7, they loop, motion activated, whatever it may be. Not only just for something like that happening, but also if you have an accident, if you were to get in an accident in the intersection or have some type of collision, that's recorded on those dash cams for insurance purposes and things of that nature. So,
is that kind of evidence admissible in court?
It is.
Okay.
It'd be the same as videotaping something with your cell phone or camera, regular camera. So that'd be admissible in court, and of course you'd have to testify as to how you took it and what the circumstances was behind all that. But yeah, it's very admissible.
All right. So once again, for folks just tuning in, the situation with the armed robbery in Hiawassee Dam yesterday was a false report. You can read on the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office a partial press release, and we've also shared it on WKRK's Facebook page. But the armed robbery this morning at Waffle House was true. So that did happen.
It did.
Any information what all was taken?
It was one of those situations where someone came in and just demanded money from the register. And of course, we don't want to disclose the amount of money and those type of things and what they actually took for purposes of interviewing and talking with people. But also, the person was left on foot, and they're like I said, they do have a lead on who they think that person might be. And so they're out in the process right now looking that person up and trying to figure out who it is and what the situation is and why they did that sort of thing. But it's so similar to what happened yesterday. We can't help what was reported yesterday that we can't help but to believe it was involved somehow.
I was concerned too when I saw that post yesterday morning. I thought, what if other people are going to get an idea to do the same thing? Because it just a lot of times we get some good ideas or bad ideas off TV and things that are done on TV.
And the thing I want to mention too, also with this lady that did this yesterday, and with people who do acts such as that, we've also got to remember that they're not always bad people. They're not always people who are trying to create havoc or trying to hurt people. Sometimes people get themselves in bad situations and bad circumstances. And sometimes they dig themselves into situations so deep they don't know how to get out of them. They don't know what to do. And so sometimes people are desperate in their actions. So even with this lady yesterday that did that, what I encourage people to do is just understand that it's only by the grace of God I'm not there, And so we need to make sure that we show a little empathy with people.
Absolutely. Sometimes good people don't always make the perfect decision.
That is true.
They can make bad decisions, and we're all guilty of that.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, sometimes, I hear people say, well, I will never do this, I will never do that, you'll never catch me doing A, B, or C. Better be careful what you say, because under the right circumstances, right situations, you might find yourself doing exactly the same thing. So I always encourage people, even though it's not excusable, even though we shouldn't condone it, and even though it created a lot of problems, we still should be empathetic with people and not be posting all these hateful things about them and saying all these hateful things about them, because what I saw was the follow up on Facebook yesterday. The flip side of that was once it was revealed that she didn't tell the truth about it, people were upset, and rightfully so. They should be upset, that somebody would make that up and say things that wasn't true. But then there were some comments on that turned into just basically hatred and saying all kind of hateful things about her and accusatory things and just very mean and vile things about her. And so, like I say, it's not excusable, it's not condoned, but we also need to understand that people can find themselves in bad situations where they don't know which way to turn.
Right. And that's one of the bad things about social media too, is how negative and how hateful people can be, because they're just hiding behind a keyboard and there's no real consequences to what they say.
Right.
I mean, I would hope that they wouldn't be face to face that hateful to people, and they do really get nasty.
They do, and that that's like I say, talking about consequences for things. That's one of the things that are consequences for the world we live in with the technology. When even when we were young and growing up, you could say whatever you wanted to whoever, but you might get a sock in the face. You might get a fat lip or a black eye because of what you said. But with today, with people hide behind keyboards, there is no real ramification for anything they say. And so people can talk all this negativity and hateful talk and all these kind of things without very little fear, I'll put it that way, of retaliation.
I think perhaps it may have worsened our situation on bullying, because there's a lot of bullying that happens on Facebook.
There is.
And kids see their parents behaving that way, and they think, well, if my mom and dad behave that way, then it's okay.
Well, we live in a society now where people have the attitude they have the right to say whatever they want to say and do whatever they want to do, and really don't take a lot of other people's feelings into consideration and circumstances like we're talking about in consideration. And so I think we've all at some point been a victim of that. And when you're like me and you're an elected official, sometimes you understand that comes with the territory, that people say whatever they want to about you, and even things that are not true, and there's very little you can do about it. But like even with my life and being an elected official, one of the things that really caught me off guard and was really not prepared for was the things that people said and did and continue to do to me that hurts my family, that says things about my family and hurts my family, and my kids have to deal with it and live through it and all those kind of things. And so when people are posting and saying these things to me or about me, I think a lot of times they don't really think about how it affects children, how it affects family, how it affects your church and your community and all these other things about what they're saying and putting things that out to be truth that's not true. And when you're hiding behind that keyboard, I think sometimes say things and type things real quick and put it out there without really thinking through what those consequences are and really thinking through how it affects everybody around them. And so, like I say, I just encourage people to just try to put a little thought into it before you hit the send button.
Right.
I can tell you I can't tell you the number of times I've sat down to type emails or post something on Facebook or whatever, and I'm frustrated, I'm angry, and I'm mad, and I type all this out, and I sit there and I look at that send button or that enter button, and I'm thinking about what it's going to do when I hit that button, and I go back and just erasing the whole thing and taking it off, And sometimes we just need to put a little thought into what we do.
All right. Now let's move on to our next topic. And I know you've been working closely, and your office has been working on the case with the former administration and doctors at the Union General Hospital. Tell us about what all has happened in the background there. And I know they have been found guilty of those charges, correct?
Right, in federal court. Yeah, that's correct. What happened back years ago, we discovered through some of our pharmacists and different people here in Cherokee County about receiving scripts from Union General Hospital, and these doctors in particular, of multiple scripts and a lot of scripts coming in through these doctors and Cherokee County pharmacies. But the people that they were written to not ever coming to pick them up. There was always some other person coming to pick these scripts up. And so some pharmacists kind of brought it to our attention that they were kind of concerned with the fact that some of these doctors themselves or family members of these doctors or employees of Union General Hospital were coming and picking up prescriptions for people that these people never showed up to get them. And so we began to look into this and began to dig into it here in Cherokee County, and found that some of the scripts that were written and put into the pharmacies were people that we couldn't find that they even existed.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't find any backgrounds on them, no driver's license, no date of birth, no birth certificates or no passports, no anything on these people. We couldn't find if they even existed. When the pharmacists and others questioned some of the people that was picking up the scripts, they were told they were missionaries for going to other countries, and they were leaving, going to be gone for several months. They needed large amounts of medicine to take with them, those kind of things. But again, we couldn't find that these people even existed. Then we got to digging into a little deeper and finding out that there were a lot of patients that were real people, that were real patients. But these people, again, were not picking up their prescriptions, but others, unknown people, were picking up these prescriptions. We had a conversation with Union County, Georgia Sheriff's Office, and they were seeing kind of the same thing down there with these particular doctors. I met with Sheriff Mac Mason down there. We had a discussion actually up here in my conference room in Cherokee County about it. He brought some of his investigators up, and he had let us know that up here that they had been trying to do things in Union County also with these doctors, but were kind of getting stonewalled in their county with their prosecution office down there, with their administrators, people in powers that be, things of that nature, that they didn't believe these doctors were doing anything wrong, kind of getting stonewalled their investigations, didn't want to prosecute them, those type of things. So Sheriff Mason asked me up here that if we would consider prosecuting in Cherokee County and looking up here to see what we had. We met with our district attorney's office, talked to our district attorney's office about what we had and the evidence that we had here. And our office was willing to go ahead and prosecute them here in Cherokee County. In the midst of all this, when we got them charged here in Cherokee County and got the ball rolling here, we were able to bring the Drug Enforcement Administration in on this, because what they found through the DEA and through running the I don't know who and all the acronyms that they all use, but the boards that look over the doctors who write scripts and the medical boards and those type of things, they started finding this same type of thing was happening, not just here, not just in Union County, but in multiple counties, multiple states, that it was happening in. And so the DEA got involved in it. They started running this from a federal angle. They adopted our state cases. They were subsequently charged again in Union County with the same things that we charged them with in Cherokee County. And then the DEA kind of took all of our cases together to federal court, along with more cases that they found through other counties, other states that was going on. And I really, I don't know or don't think that it was, even at this point, was branched out into what was really going on, really happening, because I know there were some other real estate things, there were some tax things, there was some different money in things where homes were bought and those kind of things that were also illegal. But I think they kind of focused in on just the drug part of it to see how that would go. This past week, we were notified that through federal court that the doctors were found guilty on their charges down there. I think all but one charge. If I'm not mistaken, I'm doing all this from memory, but if I'm not mistaken, it was like 102 counts.
Sounds about right.
That they were found guilty of prescription frauds and those type of things, and writing pills. And we were happy to see this come to a conclusion and a guilty verdict, over something that we started here in Cherokee County and got it going here. But also, it's also kind of a sad thing and a depressing thing that you have people in responsibility and authority that was taking advantage of others by doing this.
So what kind of impact by this illegal prescription writing scandal did that have on our community? It put a lot of drugs out on the street.
Put a lot of drugs, yeah, it did. It put a lot of drugs out of the hands of people who's using and selling drugs. But one of the issues with this also that happens is before we successfully prosecuted these doctors over the years, when I was even at the drug task force and was working drug cases, we tried multiple doctors, multiple years of trying to convict doctors for the same type of thing. Maybe not this egregious, but for doctors for overprescribing, a lot of overdose because the prescriptions doctors were writing things that didn't look right, smell right, kind of thing. And over the years, we had district attorney's offices, not just ours, but other counties. We had federal offices, U.S. attorney's offices that wasn't really interested or didn't want to go after these doctors, basically because of reputations, Dr. Howe, the trainings they go through, and arguing whether prescriptions were valid prescriptions or not. You know, I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you if you're overprescribed it or not. It was kind of the attitude that a lot of people have. But I think by going through with this case and following this case out and getting a conviction on this case, it really opened the door to other doctors in the area, to where doctors realized, hey, we're really going to have to watch what we're doing. We're going to have to really watch about what we're prescribing and what we're putting out there. We could find ourselves in the same situation. What a lot of people don't realize is from pharmaceutical companies and people that go out and sell these drugs to doctors and encourage doctors to write these things, a lot of times they do what they call incentive packages, where they'll tell a doctor that if you write X amount of scripts for my product, we'll give you a free vacation for you and your family. Or if you write so much more on that, then we will give you a new car or whatever it may be, you know. So these pharmaceutical companies are giving doctors incentives to write all these scripts and to do all these things. And so by prosecuting these doctors, I think some of these other ones have stepped back and said, hey, you know, a big screen TV is not worth it, right? Or even a trip for my family is not worth it to take a chance on over-prescribing and writing things I shouldn't prescribe. So
that seems like a very bad way to do business, is to ask doctors to, I know it's money, but but to make that incentive package to prescribe to get people on drugs.
Yeah. And you know, from a doctor's standpoint, you know, I'm not, some doctors have over the years, don't get me wrong, but for the majority of the doctors have been good doctors. And it's just one of those things where really legitimately a doctor could write a prescription for non-narcotic or narcotic. Either one is valid, either one's legal, either one would work. But with the incentive packages, it's just tipping that balance where the doctor would say, okay, even though I could write a non-narcotic, I'm going to write this one, you know. And it's not that the doctors overall necessarily have written scripts they shouldn't be writing. It's just that it's tipping that balance that way. Does that make sense?
That makes
sense,
yes.
I don't know how else to describe it. But I do want to say this, that overall, I think doctors are like law enforcement officers and everybody else. I think you have really, really good ones, and the majority of them out there is there for the right reason, trying to do the right thing, trying to help their patients, trying to help the community. But you have occasional ones that are not good and that are there for the wrong reason and are not doing the right thing. And it's just kind of like police and everybody else, you know. But I don't want this to taint the view of what we think about doctors and what other people should think about doctors, because I do think the vast majority of the doctors we have in the business are there for the right reasons, doing the right thing.
Since these two doctors were found guilty in federal court, did they lose their license to practice medicine?
Yeah, that'll be one of the ramifications for that. They will lose their license to practice, or if they do, there'll be limited practice. One of the other ramifications from that, not just the practice, but the ability to write prescriptions.
Right.
And so even though they may still be able to do general practitioner things, you know, be able to see people, to treat people, one of the ramifications of that was taking away their ability to actually write prescriptions. So that's one of the things they do in the medical field.
They are no longer associated with Union General, correct?
No, they've not been associated with Union General for, since all this happened.
Right.
So they have a brand new board, they have brand new directors, brand new chief down there of all these different operations. So they're no longer associated with the hospital down there.
All right. I wanted to make sure that was cleared up so folks would not hold this against the hospital that's doing
good work.
I think
the hospital really stepped up and did the right thing. They terminated employments and things of that nature when it first happened. The boards appointed new people to the hospital. And from what I understand, the hospital is still a thriving hospital, still treating people, still doing what they need to do down there. This is, to my opinion, was not a hospital issue. This was a particular doctor issue.
Right. All right. Well, I can see that our time has already gone by quickly here. So any closing thoughts?
No, I just, like I say, just want to encourage people to, if you see things out there, report it. I wish everybody had a happy Halloween last night. And I do want to say this. I was asked several times this morning what I did for Halloween last night. Did anything happen? As far as I know, we didn't have any major events that happened last night. But quite honest with you, I usually go to Duke Street and Valley River Avenue there and do my Halloween there. But last night after I ate supper, my wife and I curled up and watched a movie, and we went to bed last night. That's all I did for Halloween.
I dressed up as Derek Palmer.
Did you?
Yes, I scared so many people.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Had my black hood on and my face painted white.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time.
No, it was a good time. I was up in the Andrews event, and that was a lot of kids up there. That was a fantastic event. So I was so tickled to see the turnout. So thanks to everyone who came out last night. I understand Duke Street was hopping pretty heavily too.
I think the rain stopped just in time.
It stopped just in time. I was watching that. I was like 5 o'clock, rain be gone.
Right. And that's about when it quit.
All right. Sheriff, thank you so much.
Day.
You have a good afternoon, folks. You're tuned to WKRK Radio in Murphy, North Carolina, 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25, and worldwide at WKRK.love.